It was a freezing winter evening, the kind that paints the streets silver and quiets the world with its biting air. Daniel Harris, a 38-year-old single dad, was driving home from his late shift at the auto repair shop. His hands were rough from years of work, but his heart was soft when it came to one person, his 9-year-old daughter, Emily. Since his wife's passing 3 years ago, Emily had become his world, his reason to fight through every tired morning and lonely night. That evening, Daniel took a shortcut through an alley behind the local grocery store, a path he usually avoided, but fate, as it often does, had other plans. As his headlights swept across the narrow lane, something caught his attention, movement frantic and desperate. He slowed the car. A man in a dark hoodie was dragging a young girl, maybe 16 or 17, by her arm. She was struggling, her muffled cries swallowed by the howling wind. Daniel's pulse spiked. He didn't think twice. Years of grief, anger, and protective instinct boiled inside him as he slammed the door open and sprinted toward them. "Hey, let her go!" he roared, but the man didn't stop. The girl's eyes met Daniel's, wide, terrified, silently pleading for help. That was all it took. Daniel lunged forward and swung with everything he had. His fist connected with the man's jaw, a crack echoing through the cold night. The attacker stumbled and fell backward into the snow, dazed. The girl ran behind Daniel, trembling, clutching her jacket. "Are you okay?" he asked, trying to catch his breath. She nodded, tears glistening in the streetlight. But before Daniel could call the police, the man groaned and shouted, "You idiot! I'm her brother." Daniel froze. The girl gasped, "No! He's lying." Confusion hit Daniel like a wave. The man tried to get up, but Daniel pinned him down, waiting for the cops. Within minutes, red and blue lights painted the snow, and 2 officers rushed over. The girl clung to Daniel's arm as if it were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. "Sir, step back," an officer ordered. Daniel complied, still shaken. As the officers separated them, the truth began to unfold, and the girl, whose name was Lila, had been missing for 3 days. The man wasn't her brother. He was someone her parents had once trusted, a neighbor who had lured her away and kept her locked in his basement. Daniel's chest tightened as he realized just how close she had been to being lost forever. One of the officers looked at him and said, "You probably saved her life tonight." Daniel exhaled, feeling both relief and disbelief. But the night wasn't over yet. Lila wouldn't let go of his hand. "Please don't leave me," she whispered. That simple plea broke something inside him. She reminded him of Emily, scared, innocent, in need of safety. So while the police handled the suspect, Daniel sat with Lila in his truck, wrapped her in a blanket, and handed her his daughter's water bottle. She told him everything, how she'd been tricked, how she'd escaped when he went out to get gas, and how she thought no one would ever help her. "But you did," she said softly. Daniel looked out the window, snowflakes blurring the world beyond. "No one hurts a kid on my watch," he said quietly. The next morning, his story was everywhere, local news, online headlines, even strangers calling him a hero. But Daniel didn't feel like one. He just did what any father would do. Yet deep down, something stirred in him, a spark of purpose he hadn't felt since losing his wife. That night, as Emily hugged him tighter than usual, Daniel whispered a silent promise to himself. He would never look away when someone was in danger again. He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of a much larger fight, one that would test his courage, his heart, and his past more than he ever imagined. The days after the rescue were a blur of police statements, interviews, and countless phone calls from people calling Daniel a hero. But beneath all the praise, Daniel couldn't shake one thing: Lila's face when she told her story. Her voice haunted his nights. The police had told him she was now safe in protective custody, but something about it didn't sit right. A week later, Daniel received a message from a private number. It was Lila. "They're coming for me again," it read. His heart stopped. He called the number, but it went straight to voicemail. Without hesitation, he grabbed his jacket, told Emily he'd be back soon, and drove out into the snowstorm that had begun to fall over the town. He found the nearest police station and showed them the message, but they brushed it off, saying it might be a prank or trauma response. That wasn't good enough. Daniel had seen fear before, and he knew when it was real. He traced the number's last ping to an old industrial area by the train yard, and the kind of place where the law rarely looked twice. As he stepped out of his truck, the cold hit him hard, but adrenaline kept him moving. He followed faint footprints in the snow leading to a rundown warehouse. Inside, he heard voices, a man's angry growl, a girl's sobbing plea. He didn't wait for backup. He kicked open the door. The same man from before and the one he'd punched was there, this time with another guy. They turned startled as Daniel charged in like a storm. He swung first again, his fist fueled by every ounce of fury and fatherly instinct. The fight was brutal, punches, shoves, the clatter of metal tools falling to the floor. Daniel took a hit to the ribs but didn't stop. He tackled the man to the ground, shouting for Lila to run. She scrambled out, crying for help. By the time the sirens grew louder in the distance, Daniel was bleeding. Breathing hard, but standing. The men were handcuffed moments later. The officers who had doubted him before looked at him differently now. Not as some overreacting mechanic, but as someone who refused to let fear win. Lila ran to him again, hugging him with everything she had. "You came," she sobbed. "I told you I would," Daniel said, his voice breaking. Back at home later that night, Emily ran to the door as he limped inside. "Daddy, you're hurt," she cried. He smiled weakly and said, "Just a scratch, kiddo, but I kept my promise." Emily didn't fully understand, but she held him close, whispering, "You're my hero." And for the first time in years, Daniel allowed himself to feel proud. He wasn't just a mechanic or a widower, or a man fighting to keep life. Together, he was proof that goodness still exists in a world that often looks the other way. A few weeks later, Lila's parents came to see him. They thanked him through tears, calling him family. They offered him a job managing their security company, but Daniel declined. "I'm not done helping," he said. "There are more out there who need someone to punch first and ask later." The screen fades to black, and Daniel's words echo in the hearts of every viewer. That courage isn't about being fearless, but about doing what's right even when you're scared. If you're watching this and believe in standing up for what's right, for protecting the innocent, and never walking away from someone in danger, and hit that subscribe button right now. Let's keep spreading stories that remind the world that heroes still exist, sometimes in the most ordinary people, because sometimes one act of bravery can save a life and change yours forever.